Welcome to our new podcast series called In the Mix. I am Winn Darden. I'm the business manager for the Lumiflon FEVE Fluoropolymer Resins. The podcasts are all about choosing the right coating solutions, where we discuss with industry experts what influences their decision-making processes when it comes to specifying and using coatings. We'll delve into how experts develop their strategic planning approach to current structural and future market demands. In this episode, we'll talk with representatives from AKZO Nobel Powder Coatings, Peerless Products, and MPS. Joelen Lima is Regional Segment Manager Architectural for AKZO Nobel, a leading manufacturer of powder coatings under the Interpon umbrella. Justin Ebert is National Business Director for Peerless Products. Peerless is a window and door manufacturer and licensed producer of Talon Wall curtain wall systems. Matthew Price is founder and president of MPS, a sustainable building envelope representative and consultant. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Joelen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I'm the regional segment manager at AKZO Nobel. I have been in the powder coatings market for almost 10 years now. I started in South America, actually. I'm from Brazil and moved to the United States in 2021. I always worked on sales roles as an account manager and then a specifications representative. And most recently, I moved to this marketing role where I helped to lead the execution of our growth strategy of architectural market in North America.
Very good. Justin, how about your background?
Yeah, as stated, I'm Justin Ebert. I'm a National Sales Director at Peerless. I've been with the company for about 14 years as Peerless has been in the aluminum and facade manufacturing business. So architectural coatings is a big part of our portfolio, and anywhere from all the different types of materials used in this particular segment of business, we've identified a lot of the finishes. So a lot of experience in seeing a lot of that product and a lot of our finishes in the market go through. So
very good. Matt, how about you?
Thanks for having me, Winn. My background comes from the building envelope, building enclosure side of things. In my past life, I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with such companies as Perma-Stelisa and Harman and RC Aluminum out of Miami, even Traco Windows back before they were absorbed by Conair Alcoa. What I do with MPS is we work with clients both here in the States and globally as a manufacturer's representative and as a consultative consultant to find and bring new products into the industry and to pair companies and consultants and architects with the right blend of products for their venture. So we work closely with manufacturers such as Peerless and obviously AKZO here and glazing contractors around the country to just bring our 20 plus years of experience in the building envelope industry to make things easier and more understandable as we embrace new technologies across the board.
Very good. Thank you. Joel, how give me an overview of how AKZO Nobel views the growth of the powder coating market and effects, I guess, on the global architectural market.
Sure. Well, I can say we see it with very good eyes. So AKZO Nobel is actually the leader of powder coatings market worldwide. On the architectural space, it's interesting because, of course, different regions, they have different growth investment trends, right? But we are overall outpacing the global market growth. And if I can say the recipe for success there, it's definitely related to our ability to adapt and innovate quickly enough to meet the demands of architects and manufacturers as a true global partner player. We have production facilities, laboratories, and the specifications experts literally all over the world. So there's always someone to support whichever cross-regional request we get from customers. In North America specifically, the market has historically favored liquid coatings. But more and more we see that the market is moving toward greater powder adoption, driven by, of course, the sustainability behind it and the performance available. Actually, as a side note, I can mention that a significant portion of North American market today actually relies on materials with powder coatings applied overseas. That is very interesting, and that happens because coatings specifications sometimes they happen even before supply chain and extrusions considerations. So when that happens, it's where we step in, right? We help manufacturers, curtain wallers to align the colors, the appearances that they need for solutions that will compose the same facade, but they are finished in different countries.
I guess I've heard that Italy actually supplies some of the coated extrusions that are used here in the U.S.
For sure, yes. Italy, Turkey, Vietnam, you name it. There's a lot of solutions out there. Yeah.
Do you get credit for those sales? Because I'm not sure I do.
Oh, that is a tricky question. Yeah. But our spec team is global. That's why, because we are all
Okay,
connected. Yeah.
got it. Can you, off the top of your head, can you give us examples of some of the projects that you've done with your fluoropolymer powder?
Well, in New York area, for sure, we have lots of good examples. The Hudson Yards complex is one great example, one of the most standout projects we have out there with this global supply chain, as we mentioned. So we have components there finished, overseas, components finished here. And that happened, I want to say, around 10 years ago or so. And at that time, it was a pretty, innovative move for most of everybody involved. And it became a very interesting benchmark for the whole market to see, oh, this is, powder is really covering, amazing buildings like that. So it's for the whole market, not only for AKZO Nobel, it was a great move in North America.
Okay. And how do fluoropolymer coatings specifically fit into to your guys' marketing and sales strategy?
Yeah, pretty much in the monumental market for sure, right? Or windows and door manufacturers willing to play in a very premium market for sure. So it's part of our strategy. We innovate a lot on bringing new colors, finishes, and appearances that can mimic natural materials, for example, or even on the metallic look space, trying to bring more and more very elegant finishes, things like that. So it is a very important part of our business.
Matt, how do you guys? What's your participation in the value chain, and how do you view this domestic powder coating market?
Sure, Win. So, in the value chain, we work with, again, glazing contractors. In this particular case specifically, and we'll pair them with an aluminum extruder or with a finisher. More and more, in the industry, we do see powder being used and being more prevalent for the building facade items. Back when I first got involved with the industry in the late 1990s, as I like to joke, in a lot of cases we still, painted aluminum extrusions like we paint cars, auto body paints, right? And of course, then the liquids came in, which have their place, and AKZO, of course, manufactures liquid coatings as well. Throughout my career, I was predominantly on the building envelope side of things, predominantly on the liquid side, because powder just really wasn't, in our conversation yet, right? That value hadn't come to us. But of course, in Europe and in Asia, powders had been prevalent for over 10 years at that point, for over a decade. So one of the ways that I really got involved with AXO and with powder in my current role was in providing protection for those products from damage during transportation, during construction. One of my company's Clarity Peelables, we manufacture peelable protective coatings to keep things from being damaged during construction. So on the AKZO side, they embrace protection, obviously, because they want their finish to remain. They don't want to get damaged. And one of the things that we always found was, going back to my building envelope days, is we used to use the analogy of the motorcycle gas tank, right? We used to say, hey, powder coatings are for that motorcycle gas tank or your wheels on your car. They're not for a building facade. However, they are today, because with the fluoropolymers, we can get the extreme durability of a powder coat finish, along with the effects that we need from those fluoropolymers for gloss and fade and retention, etc. And you don't have to deal with soft. You've got a hard tactile finish. And from a protection standpoint, from protecting those, they during construction, obviously you want to keep them from getting scratched and damaged. We do both. One of the things that I've seen is the evolution over time is the move, from liquids to powders. Predominantly being here lately just from an environmental standpoint and from an ease of application standpoint. And companies like Peerless, with Justin is with, making that leap from a liquid applied finish to a powder applied finish, and being able to do so without having to have excessive EPA permits and the costs that are involved with those, which I'm sure Justin can speak to. But at the end of the day, when really what we do is in reviewing finishes and advising clients, aluminum extruders to go to. Of course, in this day, the extrusion can come from China. It could come from Europe. It could come from Turkey. It could come from an extruder right down the road from me. And we do like to push made in America products, and buying local as much as we can, and finding the right applicator that can do that 2604 or that 2605 powder application on those architectural aluminum extrusions is key. One other thing that would be remiss not to bring up is that in today's world of highly thermally broken aluminum extrusions, right? Because aluminum extrusions, they're not very good at protecting the building envelope from thermal intrusion. Let's just put it that way. Aluminum's a great conductor. So with some of your plastic or your TPS things that are out there now, your polyamides, powder actually is a much better solution with those. One of the other things that I do on my side is we're working with advanced FRPs, fiberglass reinforced polymers, and urethane resins, and we actually are finding that there are ways to powder coat those as well and charge those items to be able to do that and to get durable finishes on multiple things. So at the end of the day, there's I do see powder is kind of the next evolution in a environmentally sustainable coating that's being used, because there are less VOCs, volatile organic compounds being released, from the final application of that product. From Justin's standpoint, for instance, in their factory, I don't think, Justin, you could today go get a permit to apply a liquid coating where you're located. I don't know that you could do that. So,
It would take an undertaking, for.
yes.
Justin, give us your overview. How has powder impacted your business over there?
Yeah, again, yeah. I mean, it's a powder for us. When we deal in the world, specifically for our world, which is the a facade, aluminum facade, and that type of solution process. A lot of our product and a lot of the industry product is the front facing of a building. So the aging of that building and the sustainability of that building are big features. That come into play. With that. A lot of the product that's out there anymore is replaced not because it's at the end of its cycle, because it looks, at like it's at the end of its cycle. So Peerless, when we focused on that, the architectural aluminum finishing section of the business really is your reputation. It becomes part of you as a process about what you supply and how you go, about supplying that and how that finish looks and holds up in the market. In our world, there's about three particular types of finishing that you can do. And Peerless chose, to go down the powder route for a lot of different reasons. But from what we've seen in the market, a lot of sustainability, items, big deal, as Matt said, to be able to keep up, with the types of items. We chose that powder was a better solution for us as we continued on into the architectural market. And the domestic market's picking up, from what that finish can do now, the technology in that finish, what's available out there now for those types. As you guys were saying, a lot of and Matt said in his segment, there's a lot of what we have in European, technology is America's, especially in the North American segment, is lagging, behind. And Europe utilizes a lot of things in sustainability that the U.S. Looks differently at in the beginning. And so we've seen that lagging period take place specifically with its finishes. And now with the technology and the applicators that are coming to, and what we're trying to do with sustainability, we've seen a heavy push of domestic markets, intrigued by a process and a powder type of application that we provide that can really prolong their buildings, really prolong the item and the cost of having to remove things because of aesthetic.
How the relative cost that you guys run into? How about the relative cost on of liquid versus powder? We know we believe that the environmental aspect, sustainability aspect, drives a lot of that. But was just curious, how do you overcome that with a customer?
It's a part of the education process, for us as we get into that. As anybody that will understand and knows the details, and Joellen can help us, and understand that in her particular segment, is that it's a very different process and a more costly process to engage and produce powder, than it is the wet paint finish, or some of those wet paint finishes that you do have out there. And so offsetting those costs is a big important feature for us, specifically to our clientele and the markets that we bring, this to. And we really see, the benefits. Again, if I go back, the sustainability is a big item. When you have to continue to invest in your product lines, not only in that type, which is fine, but you got to continue to invest in sustainability aspects of your paint lines to make sure that they're meeting today's codes. And the cost of doing that is a real factor, that will bring into the product that you're applying. The application process is a huge factor, when it comes to the cost. When it comes to, how you're applying it, and the type of machinery that you need to apply the different two finishes. For Peerless in our situation, and what we were going through, the investment in automation, the investment in product lines that we're able to produce and apply this powder process for us, was a huge feature for us to keep manpower down, and allow that application process to be done at a very high level and produce a very significant amount of product, and the quality of which it produces, and really reduce the manpower. It takes investment in equipment, just like anything does, as you continue to do that. And we outweigh those costs to our clients by providing this type of
Okay.
solution.
Joel, how do you guys work in the specification process for the? I know architects are one of the key areas that you're in, but tell us how you guys go about getting a powder onto a particular project like a Hudson Yards.
Right. Well, the specification criteria, it's kind of similar. If we talk about global specs, it's kind of similar around the world. For example, if you compare AMA in North America with Qualicoat in Europe, or even if you compare, liquid coatings with powder coatings, their performance itself, the performance standards, they're very, let's say, comparable. I believe the main global differences between the technologies and the criteria relies more on how players or how specifiers, they accept or reject levels of performance, or, for example, how they approach premium materials such as FEV, for example. In North America specifically, the foundation of the technical criteria is AMA, right? So most of everyone in this market knows that AMA has three levels of testing, right? And those tests aim to mitigate the failures, how the color will age, how the corrosion resistance will perform, etc., etc. Now, which level of those three, which level is the right one for each project? That's where that's where lots of specifiers and players, they need support. And we do that all the time, right? We help, we bring information, we try to educate people, to advise them in the right direction on the coatings decisions, to kind of go beyond the basics. And the good thing about it is that we do that in a very neutral way. So we always try to bring, the pros of each technology, of which level of testing criteria. If we have track records in similar environments, we show the results, so the person taking decisions, can feel very secure about it. I think also that I can mention, in terms of, evolution on powder coatings, especially in the last 10 plus years, I can say that everything that today we can design and deliver, using powder coatings, thanks to the resins, the fluoropolymer resin we have today, and the pigments we have available today, it's amazing. It's not even comparable to 20 years ago. So that also enables us to, kind of go beyond new projects and new landmarks, as we mentioned before.
Matt, how about your firm? Since you're consulting on building envelope, I'm assuming coatings are a part of that, uh, getting the spec done, basically, for your clients as well, huh?
Yeah, we don't necessarily consult on the front end, on the coatings themselves, but we actually will work with consultants to answer their questions and to work with the consultant and the client. We try very, very clearly to stay out of the realms of the Gordon Smiths and the CDCs and the Heinches, right? We work closely with them to make sure they understand, and we educate them about new products and new technologies, right, to come out into the marketplace. So, one consultant that will remain unnamed, for instance, in New York City years ago, would always say, "Get that powder away from my project. Don't want it. Don't want it." However, I have seen that consultant now over the years go to the powder, and to Joelen's standpoint, or statement earlier, what AXO was able to do to turn those clients that were, or potential clients that were dead set in their ways, right, and to see new technology and embrace new technology, was to go out and do what we all have to do and spend money and time and effort to show that, hey, A is just as good as B. We can do the same stuff, or maybe we can do some things better. Maybe we're just not quite there on one little aspect. But is that one little aspect really important to you on this project? And by going to third party test labs, for instance, I worked with AXO a few years ago on a beautiful project with New Hudson Facades, on a job where they went to Malamo, a third party test lab, together, and specifically tested the paint that they wanted above and beyond what Alma ever would have required. And to that matter, they took the protective coatings that were going to go on there and did aging tests on them. They've done the same thing with Peerless and the folks down there to show that, look, you have a question about our material. Here's how it performs, and here's third party testing results. And over time, that's how we all get comfortable with something. The liquid side of things, we all didn't get comfortable and warm and cozy with a 26 liquid 2605 finish overnight. That took a decade to do. And nothing moves slowly, or nothing moves quickly in our industry. As all of us will attest to, just 10 years ago, literally 20 years ago, soft coat low E's on the glass side were new technology, and everybody was afraid of them. Are they going to last? Now we're light years beyond that. We're at double and triple silver coatings and different mixes on the glass side. We're back to improving vacuum sealed IGUs to get ultimate thermal performance, in products. The same with the paint. Some of the coatings that I've seen, AKZO working with are actually, heat reflective coatings, which are amazing, right? They actually will help the overall thermal performance of the building envelope. It's just all working with the consultant Win and answering their questions and doing so in an educational way, right? Teaching properly. Never expecting that someone knows the answer to everything, because we don't, right? Just working together to make sure we all understand where we need to be and what is the best selection for that product and project.
Right, right. Yeah, it's tough to give up. And really, the sales of the powder really didn't start picking up until the early 2000s. That's really the date that we saw when we had a significant penetration in the U.S. And of course, it's really been the last 5 years that you've really started to see it take off. And of course, we have a lot of things in Japan that have been out there for 35 years. But we're seeing the same thing here now. We're in some of these markets now where there's water tanks that have been painted with a Lumiflon fluoropolymer top coat that have been out there for now 25 years, 28 years. And there's nothing that really makes an impression on an architect or a specifier if you can show him a building or something like that the coating is identical in gloss and color and everything to when it was put on. It's a lot. It does a lot to convince people when you actually have the application information available. So, Justin, what do you see as the challenges going forward in the growth of powder in this architectural market?
I think Matt brings up a great point. This industry, and he's been doing it a lot longer than I have. But this industry is creatures of habit, and that's part of if it's working, they're gonna hold to it as long as it is. So embracing one of the words that he says, embracing new technology, is not always easy to do in the construction materials aspect, because of the nature of the buildings, the nature of what's going on. To go out on a limb and trust something, or to say, I'm going with something different, is a big feat for people that are executing it. So that's a big word. I agree with that. And getting them to embrace items is a big item for us. We're very much creatures of habit. We do not want to change unless there's a significant reason to do so. And some people hold on to that a lot longer, specifically when you deal with specifications and different things in there. People will hold on to that for a long time because it works for them, and it has.
Okay. Uh, John, from the manufacturer of the powder coating standpoint, how about you? What do you see as the challenges moving ahead in the market?
Yeah, definitely on the spec level, on the specification level, we see decades of liquid education, right? So we see some status quo and some sort of benchmarking from previous successful jobs, which is not wrong, right? It's just that kind of behavior kind of keeps some architectural firms in their comfort zone, as we all mentioned. Now, there are some players, some architectural firms taking the lead on powder, specifying powder as a primary choice. For them, I think the one of the challenges are related to find right partners, right? So in some areas of the country, for sure, they struggle to find architectural applicators with bold warranties and very good quality. So what we do to help is we have a program of testing and in extending our warranties to approved applicators. And what we do all the time is to connect these applicators to our known buying accounts, known buying customers that are pretty much in need of those services. So it's a way to collaborate and move things forward. From a perspective of the application lines, I think the challenges are related to CAPEX investment for sure. So it's not a fast decision. It's not a decision that will be taken, in a year. So we have been supporting companies for over last 2 decades right now, and to move to powder, and despite we never saw anybody regretting to move, Of course, some big players, they're not ready, they're not there yet. We try to bring all the data, as we mentioned before, right? Helping them to calculate the costs, compare the specs, and kind of feel secure when they're ready to make the movement. And I think as a positive side, a positive note about all that is that North America in general, it's step by step moving forward to powder coatings. I think the numbers talk by itself. And for the ones still wondering if it's a right decision, yes or no, it's just a matter of looking, around the world, of course, and also observe how the coatings manufacturers, how they're innovating and investing in this market. And not only AKZO Nobel, but all my competitors, we are all playing a very fair game on bringing new solutions in powder coating. So that is a great sign of that the future is very bright over there.
Okay. Matt's, same question to you. What do you think? How's the market moving ahead? What challenges and opportunities do you see?
The initial challenge, was one that I actually raised when I was still in the building envelope side of things. Is, hey, it's an unknown. It's unknown. I know liquid. I don't know powder, right? And again, to use the analogy of, hey, my motorcycle gas tank is powder coated. My bicycle's powder coated. The wheels on my vehicle are powder coated. That's for that. That's not for this. However, AKZO is done a fabulous job of educating the marketplace and including myself on the benefits of powder, the strengths of powder, the weaknesses of powder when and if those do exist. As Joelen pointed out, one of the perceived weaknesses may be that there's not as dense of an approved applicator and application scenario across North America for the product. However, Peerless, right, a great company, a large company, made major investments to do that. We've got companies throughout the U.S., whether it be a Trojan or whether it be an ASI or other companies that have all done the same. You've got extruders now that have put in powder lines as well as liquid lines. Whether that be here in the States, you look at other countries like ES down out of Colombia that has multiple powder and wet lines, right? Everyone is embracing the new technology and moving forward. And I think one of the main reasons is sustainability and the point of application of the product, of the coating, VOC is released, right? So right now, when let's just put it this way: in the last 5 years, I've worked with facilities, whether it be in the Caribbean, whether it be here in my home state of Florida, in Oregon, in Canada, in Italy, in Turkey, in Spain, in the Midwestern United States, in California, in Mexico, all with companies that were either applying liquids and converting to powders, or were already doing powder but converting to good powders, right? 2605 powders, as we'll call them. Not your standard 2603s or lesser powder coatings. It's not been an environmental issue in any of those markets to get permitting to apply that coating. Whereas I know for a fact that if I was to want to go open up a facility to provide finishing, and I wanted to provide a wet finish application, utilizing a 2604 or 2605 paint, or any for that matter, there would be a very long and lengthy environmental permitting process that would have to go through. Or in some cases, I just need to go purchase a company, if that's what I was interested in, that was already grandfathered in, and get that done, right? So it's all tied to tonnages of VOC, et cetera, right? And as Justin and Peerless can attest to, that release during the application process is infinitely less and exponentially less on the powder side than it is on the liquid side. So that's a plus. I'm in Florida. I cut my teeth in this business and grew up in this business in Florida. Salt, humidity, all of those things are huge for us. That's one of the big reasons I used to bang my head against the wall about, hey, we're liquid because we know it works, right? However, again, AKZO taking the forefront in that has proven and shown through test results that we can get just as good of results, with a powder coating and in a salt area and a corrosive environment as we can with a liquid. With powder coating and the distribution of the particles and the thickness of the coating throughout the extrusion, right, through an electrically charged process, you get much less issues with thin coatings in areas or with filiform corrosion as you could with a liquid. So again, it's education. Liquid has its places, powder has its places. I like them both. There may be a job tomorrow where I recommend one or the other versus the other. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're providing a product for the end user that we know is going to be durable. In Peerless's case, we know that when they apply that it's going to be at least 20 years until that coating needs to go be retouched on the building. And speaking of touch up, which again, restoration is part of what I do and what our companies do. It used to be that in the past, oh, you can't touch up powder. Absolutely, you can. We've worked closely with companies like Blue River to create a liquid applied coating that will adhere directly to the powder. So it works. It absolutely works. And those coatings are water based, so you have environmentally conscious products on both ends of the spectrum.
Uh, I think some of the challenges are right there for what almost what we've been mentioning. Education in our market is a big thing. And so in the challenges that we see, with powder and other ones, is just the education of understanding, and as Joellen, mentioned in hers, understanding what's the right application for you. What's the right, whether it's wet or whether it's powder, whether you need a 2605 and 04, 03. As you're going through that, the education in the biggest market is a big hurdle, is a big challenge. Again, the creatures of habit, we don't want to change. It's working. So getting them to embrace something a little bit different and a big feat, this is a lot of material going on buildings that, people have to make big decisions on, and so they hesitate with that, and that can be a challenge. Some of the other challenges that, that we deal with is just the Peerless is a company that brings in a lot of different materials to make its product. And some of that material, as we're framing and doing in other areas of infill, what we call our infill products, are what we include into our frames, including not only glass, but including metal panel, louvers, and different types of systems. You have the ability to get into situations where those finishes don't exactly match, across the board, or you have to introduce a different, product in that infill, which really scares a lot of people when they're getting into wanting a whole system, done. So there's some challenges, that we face with that, and those are still part of the process of education that we get through.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was all I had. Thank you so much for joining us for the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and it was a great pleasure talking to you all.
Thank you all for inviting us on, and glad to share knowledge with the industry always.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity to speaking with you guys. Matt, always great, a ton of wealth of knowledge. So, appreciate all of our interactions, but thank you guys for setting this up.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, In the Mix. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to hear more, be sure to subscribe. To catch all the latest from Lumiflon, you can visit our website at lumiflonusa.com or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Lumiflon USA. Thanks again. See you next time.